next three speakers, Tim Dunlap, Peggy Haines, and Tina Haslett.
I thought Groundhog Day was the other day. Look at all the woodchucks. Thanks for coming over. If you get a chance this afternoon, go see Teganic Falls. It's a lovely place. This is what money buys you. Full-page ad in the Star Gazette showing you what your football team can look like. Brand new uniforms. Just buy into the industry. Right here it says, with time-tested technology like horizontal drilling and fracturing. In 1998, we fought for the Hector backbone, Fingerlakes National Forest. There's only been, in this entire document prepared a DEIS, there's 3 mentions of hydraulic fracturing. 2 of them are in the glossary. Well stimulation, that's what they call it. You got to look it up to find out what it really means. You don't want to know. It's shock and awe at the bottom of a 5,000-foot well. I wasn't too keen on shock and awe when Donald Rumsfeld brought it to us back in 2003, and I'm even less fond of it these days. If you want to see shock and awe, then go see Teganic Falls. That will really set you straight. Thank you for banning hydraulic fracturing.
Good morning, and thank you again for hosting this. I'm Peggy Haines. I'm a realtor in town, and I have already seen problems brought about in the value of our properties, the properties that have leases on them that are very difficult to sell, that cost people money to sell. I had one client who discovered that there was a lease on land that he had put a bid on, and the seller had to take a $30,000 hit on that sale. There have been other sales that have just fallen through because the banks won't finance mortgages on leased land. It's a problem. It's already a problem. It's only going to get worse. Last Saturday, my husband Peter and I traveled to Bradford County to adopt a puppy. And on the way, we passed and traveled over some roads, dirt roads like the one we live on, that were slick, wet, deeply rutted, and very frightening to drive on. And, you know, we drive down Bower Road after a snowstorm, and that's kind of iffy. But these were awful. We asked the people who were giving us the puppy what it was like to live amidst all of the gas wells. And they said, oh, it's not too bad, you get used to it, our water hasn't been affected yet. I said, what's it like at night around here? And they said, oh, there are 6 or 8 wells around here, and they kind of light up the sky, and they burn off the gas. And I have to say that we love living on Rumsey Road because the night sky is dark except for the stars. And we like hearing the yipping of coyotes, not too close to the house, and the hooting of owls. And we find that ever so much more soothing than the sounds of 24-hour-a-day compressors. We're very frightened about what may happen. We adopted this new puppy to replace our dearly departed Sadie, one of whose last gestures was to chase the last landman off our property. We hope that you will do the right thing and ban fracking in Hector. Thank you.
Hi, Tina Haslett, representing 8 generations of the Haslett family in the town of Hector. Thank you, board, for your time today. Appreciate it. And sounds like we're united here. I could read this, but, you know, way to go, everybody. Thank you.
Next 3, Joey Gates, Clifford, and Maggie Pitkin.
Good morning, my name is Joey Gates, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. My husband, Crow Weaver, and I own just under 6 acres in the town of Hector, and we've been there since June of 2010. We both had the opportunity to travel the world and pretty extensively before we came to Mecklenburg, and to live, work, study, sightsee, all the wonderful things you do when you see the world. And in my experience, I actually was able to experience the negative health effects of non-renewable energy sources, such as the burning of brown coal in South Korea and living in Sweden when Chernobyl blew up. What I learned through these experiences is that pollution knows no boundaries. We may say we can do what we want on our land, but when it involves pollution, that travels to our neighbors and is tantamount to warfare on our neighbors when we send highly toxic chemicals into the air, water, soil, which then grows our food. We oppose fracking and support a ban on hydro-fracking in the town of Hector due to its large-scale detrimental effects to our basic life support system, which is the earth. These detrimental effects can stretch over generations beyond those who benefit. Even if we were to benefit, it wouldn't benefit those who come behind us. Once you frack, you can't go back.
Hi, thanks. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today to our board. My name is Neil Clifford. This is my family, part of them, the ones that are too shy. I basically came down here to ask 3 things of you today. We own some land on Sorian Road. My wife and I built a house in '09 next to our lovely neighbors, the Tamburellos. And unfortunately, next to the 238 acres that was just sold for fracking purposes. I just want to ask 3 things. If you do not institute a ban on fracking, will you compensate us for the drop in property prices? I know that this is a public comment period, and that therefore that's a rhetorical question. I have 2 more rhetorical questions. Will you guarantee the way of life in Hector if you fail to institute a ban? And by that I mean clean air, clean water. My last question. Will each of you personally guarantee the health of my family? I don't care about money. I do care about our way of life and about my family. If it is fear that prevents you from passing a ban, then please, I urge you to gather your courage. If you cannot do that, then please step down from this board. There are hundreds of people here who are willing to stand up and do that. Thank you.
Maggie? Maybe she left. Okay, so then we will go to Stephen Smoker.
Smolin, S-M-O-L-I-N.
All right. I thought it was a K, not an L, sorry. Carolyn Hecht, however you want to say it, and Rebecca Wright.
Good morning. My name is Stephen Smolin. I live on Round Schoolhouse Road. I've lived in Hector over 35 years, a place that I love. I like to come home at night and look at the sky and see the stars, and like Peggy, hear the coyotes and the screech owls. That will all go with 24-hour diesel engines and truck traffic. I love this place. For over 30 years, I worked for the New York State Department of Health in the Division of Environmental Health Protection. We were trained to inspect wells, to look at their source, and to guarantee as best we could that they would not become polluted. And I was privy over those years to see how wells were polluted and did cause major outbreaks in the state. Most of that was from manure, but also it can happen from chemicals that seep into the ground. It is very easy to happen. It does happen. Some of the byproducts of drilling include the expression from deep within the earth of benzene, radium, barium, strontium. These are all radioactive chemicals that end up in the fracking water. It gets tracked down the roads. Some of it tries to get recycled in sewage treatment plants as close as Cayuga Heights. They are unable to detoxify this water. It remains on the surface, eventually to rivers and lakes. And I would like to read an article in the New York Times newspaper, April 20th, 2011. A blowout at a natural gas well in rural northern Pennsylvania spilled thousands of gallons of chemical-laced water on Wednesday, contaminating a stream and forcing the evacuation of 7 families who live nearby as crews struggled to stop the gusher. The Chesapeake Energy Corporation lost control of the well site near Canton in Bradford County around 11:45 p.m. Tuesday, officials said. Tainted water continued to flow Wednesday afternoon, though workers finally managed to prevent any more of it from reaching the stream. Chesapeake said a piece of equipment failed late Tuesday while the well was being hydraulically fractured. Chesapeake and others of their ilk, and these are my words, cannot guarantee that this wouldn't happen here. I caution the board not to believe any promises from this industry. Please enact a moratorium and a ban. Thank you very much.
My name is Caroline Hecht, and I've lived on Burr Road in Hector for 27 years. I'd like to thank the board for giving us this opportunity to speak. The DEC's SGICE and proposed regulations for fracking will not adequately protect us from the inherent risks. To protect our health, water, environment, roads, and quality of life, I ask that you enact a ban on all fracking in our town. I have a couple of comments specifically related to water. First, the regulations suggest that fracking should not be allowed within 4,000 feet of, quote, important bodies of water. As others have mentioned, our well water is just as important and should be protected too. Besides, if horizontal drilling can go out a full mile or more, how does that 4,000-foot number make any sense? Additionally, if an entire watershed isn't protected, chemicals seeping into streams will eventually reach all the rest of the water. A friend of mine who's building a house in Hector, this is my second water comment and it's more local, A friend of mine who's building a house in Hector told me that she wanted to do something with gray water, and I'm sorry, I don't know exactly how that works, but she was told that she couldn't because the town has a rule against it because of the risk of contaminating her well. So if the town rules don't allow a simple thing like that that might contaminate one well, how can you not also ban fracking? Finally, the overall character of our town should be protected. The tourism industry cannot survive if fracking is allowed, and it will be better to create local jobs through non-industrial means, which will help us to preserve the beauty and character of our town. Thank you.
My name's Rebecca Wright, and I live in Valois. I didn't really expect to speak today because I really have to commiserate with Brent's comments on what it's like to be, you go into the field of forestry and you don't really expect to be a public speaker. I have worked in natural resources for over 30 years, and in that career of mine, I've seen many changes and threats to ecosystems where I've worked and where I've lived. There are several threats right now that are encroaching on Hector's ecosystems, which we have no control over. I'm just going to name two of them that I know about. One of them is the emerald ash borer. This is an insect that's coming into Hector. It is not a question of if it gets here, it's a question of when it gets here. And when that happens, it will be affecting and devastating the ash tree population, which will significantly change the forested stands that we know today in Hector. Another example is the hemlock woolly adelgid. The hemlock woolly adelgid is an insect that affects and kills hemlock trees. It is here in Hector and spreading, and it's affecting the mature hemlock stands and the ecosystems that are associated with hemlock stands and this tree species. Okay, that's a reality. It's going to happen. What I look at, and when I've been listening to and observing and reading about all the different controversy over fracking, the good thing I can see about this situation is that this board and the citizens of Hector do have control over this kind of encroachment and the potential threat it has to our ecosystem. Thank you.
Next speaker is Paul Bursick, Phil Davis.
Sorry, I was all the way in the back.
Are there any more sign-in sheets up there?
So
I'm on the last two names. I just wondered if today more signed in. Go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Hector Town Government, thank you so much for putting this particular public hearing on or giving us an opportunity to speak to you. I think this is a great manifestation of our democratic form of government. I greatly appreciate it. I think it's a very good idea. But I think, and I've been back there counting, by the way, and we have well over 200 people. I counted 205 myself that came through the door. And this is, I think, a very good thing for the town of Hector, and I'm proud to be a part of it. But it does point out something that's of interest, and that is the people of the town of Hector care about what goes on in our neighborhood, in our town. But it's terribly difficult, as you know, to get the word out, to talk to people, and to try to pull together people in a way that they can have a reasonable dialogue. Special events help in one way or another, but they're not entirely adequate. We have no common media, we have no commons that we can gather on. And as you know, we've got something like 8 zip codes and 6 school districts, and people are pulled in a dozen different directions, wherever they work and where they live. And their neighborhoods are not necessarily cohering into a town of Hector. I believe that you folks have an opportunity that nobody else has anywhere in this area, and that is to use town government to be a forum for public opinion. I know that some of you feel that there are probably people who aren't here that need to be heard from as well. And I respect that and I understand that. We do not have 4,000 people, we have 205. But we do have within your power and within your control the ability to help the town of Hector talk to itself a little bit better. Our town website is not very good, and it doesn't keep us up to date, and it doesn't give us information about upcoming meetings, and it doesn't say what's on the agenda, and it doesn't tell us anything about what's going on in the town. I think it's a disgrace in this era, 2100 or 2000 something, 2012, where we're in right now. We really need you to take some of the money, maybe some of the money that you saved on snow removal this year, and stick it over there and hire someone that can build up the Town of Hector website so all of us can do it. Think community bulletin board. Think of the ability for all of us to have an opportunity to interact a little bit more and for us to know about these meetings a little bit more in advance so we can prepare. I'll see you at the next town board meeting.
Hello, Phil Davis, 6th generation Hector resident. I just would like to take a minute to express my appreciation and admiration for you guys to do all the work that you do that keeps Hector flowing the way I love Hector to flow. I grew up as a farmer, agriculturalist. My father instilled in me a sense of stewardship for the land. I know some of you folks on the board are farmers and being stewards of the land, and it just befuddles me that with all the evidence of occasional failure in this hydro-frack world, that a governmental agency that is responsible for the land of Hector, the stewardship of the land of Hector, would even consider not taking a position of, hold up a minute, there is failure. What's an acceptable percentage of failure? 5%, 10%, 1%? When you're talking about the aquifers, the people's water, I mean, you hear that over and over. That is a pretty rudimentary and basic and extremely important resource that you really have to pay attention to. The dairy business, I mean, how dependent is the dairy business on water? It's essential. Are you willing to roll the dice? I mean, obviously it's your choice, but you're representing a township that has a lot of apprehension based on education. I think it behooves you to educate yourself as thoroughly as possible. I think it behooves you to, I realize how much time you people have to put in, but this is too important not to put in more time. Contact other boards in other towns, towns that have such serious issues, towns that things are flowing well for them. Talk to other farmers. I mean, that's when it really struck me. was when I had conversations with some dairy farmers in PA and the disasters that happened. You know, I'm a farmer. It really strikes me when another farmer throws this stuff out. And sure, I'm sure there's a lot of farmers that don't have that issue. But what's the right percentage of having this issue? And, all right. This resource has been there for how many years? This resource will be there for how many more years? What is the rush? Why do we have to compromise 1%, 5%, 10%? Why not wait? And if indeed we feel like we have to have this natural resource, I would encourage you to at least consider a moratorium, and I would prefer a ban. Consider time. Time is a lot longer than we are, and just do the right thing. All right?
Jessica Rogers.
Hi, I'm Jessica Rogers. I don't have anything formal prepared, but I just wanted to say my husband and I have lived in Hector for 12 years. This is the longest I've ever lived in one location in my life. And we own a business, Two Goats Brewing. This is after we moved to Hector because it's a majestic area. Seneca Lake I completely fell in love with. This is after living in northern Wisconsin, southern Minnesota, Oceanside, California, the mountains of Oregon, the Oceanside, Oregon, and the mountains of Colorado. We've lived in gorgeous areas of this country, and we chose Hector. And I think if you don't at least pursue a ban on fracking in Hector, you don't get out of town enough. Because when you get out of Hector, you realize there's not that many places in this country that are this beautiful. We have something that is absolutely breathtaking, and most of the tourists that come to our business mention it. Most of them don't have this, and they think that we're very fortunate to live in an area like this. This is why, of course, the population in Hector has grown. People want this. We are, in Hector, living and sitting on a gold mine, but it's not natural gas. It's the natural resources. It's the lake, it's the land, it's the people. And the gold mine that we could profit from is tourism. Thank you.
Okay, there's no other people signed up to speak. I'd like to thank everyone for coming. We will go through the comments that are in the box, and I guess, thank you for coming. Thank you.
Make sure to leave any your comments in the box if you've written some for the board. They will be looking at them, so please do leave your comments.